Well, hello everyone. My name is Zachary O'Shea, and this is Box of Teeth. I have another horror-themed monster for all of you for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition right now. Here in the back half of July, we're focusing on a horror antagonist that you can use for a Dungeons & Dragons game, along with her minions, and that antagonist is the Vespidai. She's a riff-off of the classic movie monster, The Fly. She was an alchemist and an arcanist, and she and her lover were working on developing waystones to make teleportation something that every class of citizen had access to. In the setting, that was all controlled by the Planar Guild, who really ruled over teleportation magic, and it was only available to the rich and powerful, which made the Planars Guild rich and powerful oligarchs themselves. Whether through a horrible accident or deliberate sabotage, during one of the experiments, she was mixed with a wasp, became a horrible, lumpy thing that could not survive on its own. Her lover suspended her in kind of an electric goo, and then built a carapace for her that she now wears as she goes on a path of vengeance that may or may not be justified. But she doesn't care about collateral damage, and that's where the villainy comes in. She covers 3 specific genres of horror, which are body horror, science horror, and cosmic/planar horror, and today's minion really leans into that mechanical/science horror and planar horror at the same time, and that is the Ruby Wasp. Step 3, fodder. I have to admit that the wizards of the Planars Guild aren't complete dullards. They do at least know their limitations. First and foremost is a lack of any sort of physical prowess. Some of the wizards use summoned monsters to protect them, others just hire goons. Either way, I don't bear these creatures any malice. The Ruby Wasp that I employ are simply a countermeasure. I must really thank the first Planar Guildsman that I vanquished under my mandibles. His secret and dark experiments with Red Slod really helped out in making these entities. Don't worry, my darling, I will not be breeding these outsiders anywhere near our home. After all, the Knave's secret tower is just a jaunt away. Measuring 6 feet in length, the Ruby Wasp is another one of the Vespidai's deadly creations and masterpieces. It's primarily made from enchanted copper that gives it a deep red hue. Its wings are made from red crystal and silver. It has very articulate legs and mandibles. Underneath is all frosted glass where one can see its galvanic engine shooting off lightning everywhere that kind of coalesces down to its stinger, but there are little bits of biomass, sinew, and muscle that betray there is something living and terrible and tortured within. It doesn't have an eye. Instead, in the front of its face is a large ruby that serves as its sensory apparatus with 2 twitching antennae on either side. As a hint, what's inside is a mutated and disgusting Ruby Slod. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look at the Ruby Wasp statistics for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. A Ruby Wasp is a challenge rating for medium construct that is unaligned. It's got a low armor class, but a lot of hit points. It is resistant to cold and fire damage and immune to lightning and poison damage, and has a plethora of condition immunities you would expect for a construct to have. It has dark vision and tremor sense. It does have telepathy, but can only communicate telepathically and only understands common and draconic. Ability-wise, it does have magic resistance and self-repair, which is basically regeneration that does not work if it takes acid or necrotic damage. Attack-wise, it does have multi-attack for bite and stinger. The bite does a little bit of piercing damage. The stinger does piercing and lightning damage. It also has a recharge ability of bombing run, so it flies in a straight line, drops several bombs. Those bombs explode, doing lightning damage. It also has a reaction of Shield Breaker, so anytime a creature casts a shield spell within 30 feet of the Ruby Wasp, the construct can move and make a bite attack with advantage against that creature. Obviously, it casts the shield spell, so the bite attack might not hit, but now it has a 6-foot giant mechanical wasp that is trying to kill it. I hope you enjoyed the Ruby Wasp as kind of a takeoff of a Slod. The rest of her minions are all variations of said wasp that are different colors for different slots, and we'll be covering those soon. You can find them, the Vespidai, and hundreds of other horror-themed monsters, all for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, that are all perfectly free at boxofteeth.blogspot.com. If you're more interested in the non-Dungeons & Dragons role-playing projects that I have that are also horror-themed, or the horror fiction that I write that includes Circuit Breakers, a Meek Earth Tale that you can find on Kinda Vella right now, you can always go to www.zacharyoshea.com. As always, I really do appreciate your time and your attention. Sorry there's still a bit of an AC in the background. It's still very hot here. Have a wonderful rest of the day.